Okay, it's just gone 11 o'clock. And I'll say good morning. My name is Callum McRae. I'm the Senior Sales Executive with Persevere. I'm joined today by my friend and colleague George Gregory from SAP Concur. We want to welcome you along to this expense management discussion. It's basically an overview of a product, but it's designed to assist, designed to aid and make your lives easier when it comes to expense management. And we'll go through some of the tricks and processes that you have to do to make it effective in your business. First of all, though, a little bit of housekeeping. Everybody will be in listen-only mode, but you'll be given the opportunity to ask questions later. I normally feel in these things, you feel as if the exits are here, here, and here. But that's the housekeeping rule. Just for the lines will be muted, but you'll be invited to join in later on. Tell you a little bit about Persevere as an organisation. We are a global SAP Gold partner, which means that we are involved in the software, but we're business transformation specialists. For the past 8 years, we've been involved in helping clients worldwide to move from their traditional systems to the cloud. We automate intelligently, and we use additional tools, as many others do these days, such as AI in everything that we do. We've got other products that we work through FutureRoute and Persiscan, which is our barcode system for warehouse management. We've got a great team, over 275 people, fast approaching 300 actually, with some of the new hires that we're doing at the moment. And we work across the UK, United States, India, and the Middle East. And we've also just added on South America to that list as well. So we don't just do technology, we take full responsibility for the results that delivers, and we make systems work better for people. So that's the sales pitch over for Persevere. George, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to pass this over to you now, and you can start going through the information with regards to Concur, what it does, how it does it. And in the background, we have Amy, who's controlling the slide decks and the conversations. So over to you, George.
Thank you very much, Callum. So yeah, good morning and good afternoon to everybody who has joined us, depending on where you've joined us from. As Callum said, my name is George Gregory. I'm one of the regional sales directors here at SAP Concur. I specifically look after what we call the SMB division. So SME/SME, they're fairly interchangeable. And what does that mean? Well, we focus on growing businesses who have a revenue of under $1 billion per year, and specifically the team that I'm focused on is what we call the mid-market within that. So that's organizations of up to 300 UK-based employees. I think sometimes when people hear the name SAP, and especially when people hear the name Concur, they may think that we're only appropriate for larger organizations, and actually that couldn't be further from the truth. And Amy, I don't know if you're able to start sharing some of the slides now with a bit of an introduction about who we are. But this gives a quick overview of Concur as an organization. So as you'll see here, yes, we do have 75% of the Fortune 500 organizations within that. But actually, if I can put your attention to the bottom right-hand corner of this slide, half of the organizations that we work with sit in that SMB space. And over the past 15 years in particular, this has really been the growth engine for our business. And you'll see that we're now up to 80 million users of the software. And in the bottom right-hand corner, the key part to this is some of the independent reviews that we get. So you'll see that actually currently on the App Store, we have a 4.8 rating. That's from over 1 million reviews. Just to put some context around that, perhaps, if you think about WhatsApp, which is a fairly ubiquitous app in the world now, they currently have 4 million reviews online. So to get up to 1 million for simply a business application is something that we're very proud of, and I hope gives some insight into how we are viewed as an organisation. And also for our UK listeners today, you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner, we are actually accredited by the ICAEW as being somebody that they recommend that you should work with. Now, there are a couple of reasons for that. First reason is to do with not just your user experience on day one as part of the setup, but also the way that we service our clients day two and into the future. And also the ease of use with which you're able to capture and reclaim VAT within Concur. So look, I could spend the next half an hour or so talking about how great Concur is as an organization, but I think what you really want to see is how the application works and how we can help your business. So what is SAP Concur? Well, in essence, Concur is a full spend management platform for your business. We look after everything potentially outside of payroll, and it's made up of three key areas. So the first one, and this is the one that we're going to be talking about today, is our employee expense module. Also linked into that, we have a travel booking tool for those clients of ours that are doing a large amount of international travel. Interestingly enough, Concur is so well known for its travel booking tool that we're actually the third largest booking tool in the world. After Experian and Booking.com, Concur is the third largest travel booking platform in the world. And finally, we also have, you'll see here on the right-hand side, an invoice module. So that's for your AP. The reason that we offer that really is that if you think about it, invoices are really just very large receipts. And so it's about getting those into the system and putting them through a process. Obviously, we're going to talk about expense in particular today, but if you would like to find out how we can help with the automation of your travel booking or also the AP side of your business, have a chat with Callum about that, and we'd be delighted to talk to you about it at a further date.
Indeed.
The fourth part of Concur, which is something that we're very proud of, is we are recognized as the world leader in this space. We currently make up about 50% of the global marketplace. So if you add up every single other organization in the world, and by the way, there are many that offer this type of software, you add them all together, they will add up to what Concur provides to the market. So what does that mean? Well, that also means that we get a lot of organizations who look to integrate their software directly into Concur. So on the left-hand side here, you'll see some of the organizations we work with. We currently have about 600 partner applications that come in directly into Concur. And I'm hoping you'll recognize some of these companies like Booking.com or the Marriott Group or Delta. And what I've got here is an example of the way that the Uber integration works. So let's imagine that you need to book a trip via Uber. And this is Uber for Business. So you'll probably be aware if you've got Uber for Business, it actually integrates directly into your normal Uber account. And what I've got here in this instance is we actually have a corporate credit card associated to the account. Obviously, if this is out of pocket expense, it's not a problem. You can work it in the same way. But for this one, I'm going to use my corporate credit card, select that. And what you'll see here is it actually sends the receipt for this journey directly through to SAP Concur. So what does that mean? That means that your users and your staff will be able to begin compiling their expense reports accurately without even using the application. And when we talk about integration, that's the kind of thing that we're talking about. As I say, if this is of interest to you and you'd like to see some of the other applications that are linked into Concur, or you have any questions about which ones may be linked in, please drop Callum a line or pop it in the chat, and we can begin to answer those questions. So moving on now from the ecosystem, what I will just say is I'm about to go into a live environment. Please, if you have questions to ask us, please ask them in real time. I've done a lot of these type of demonstrations and webinars over the year, and what I will say is that they tend to work a lot better if we have partner and client engagement direct, as opposed to just sort of leaving all your questions to the end. So what are we going to see for the next sort of half an hour or so? Well, what I thought we'd do is we'd actually take a journey of an expense through the system. So Amy, if you're happy to move on to the next slide, please, we'll get into it. Perfect. So what we're going to see today, as I said, is the journey of an expense through Concur. Firstly, from the employee, who is employee or traveller, who are compiling their expense report through the month. Then what we'll do is I'll take you through the approval process, show you how managers and direct line leaders are able to do approvals. And finally, moving through into finance, how we're able to get this all into a central location and then off into your ERP system. We're also going to spend a bit of time talking about reporting and the various options within that for you. And then finally, we'll wrap up with a quick overview of how we're able to reimburse these expenses through Concur if you wish to do that. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to set you the scenario that you've got somebody who's out and about on the next slide, and you know how they go about compiling their report. So some of you may have noticed that I'm coming to you with a slightly strange camera angle. So I'm actually doing this webinar directly from my mobile phone, because what I wanted to do is take you directly into the application live and show you the user experience, because most of the time they'll be doing that on their phone. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to turn my camera off, so you all don't have to look up my nose as I pick up my phone, and then I'll share my screen with you. Just from a housekeeping perspective, as I say, this is my work phone. This is a live environment. I have done everything I can to turn off the notifications, but if something pops up that I haven't thought about, please just ignore that. It hasn't happened yet, but you do never know. So as I say, I'm just going to turn my camera off. Grab up my phone.
These things are going to go. Can I just interject here and just say to everybody that please, as George is doing this might generate some questions. We have the chat window open, so while we're operating through this, by all means, put your questions through at any time. Over to George again.
Perfect, thank you, Callum. So I'm hoping, I have started my broadcast. I am hoping that you can see my my phone screen live, perfect, thank you. And what I will just say again is now I'm demoing live in my phone, I actually can't see you all. So if I ask a yes/no question, if you wouldn't mind just saying yes or no, I really appreciate that. So what you can see here is I've got my I'm in my phone, and I've got a receipt. I've been to Costa Coffee this morning, and I want to get that into the system. So I'm just going to go ahead and go into SAP Concur. So this is the application that you'll spend most of your time in, and there are a few things going on here. So the first thing is that because this is an app-based system, your users can actually see where all of their expenses are up to at any given time. So you can see here I've got an old claim that I've got here that I've previously submitted, and I'm waiting for approval on. Now, why do we do that? Well, the benefit of having this all up in the cloud and in an application is that your users can actually see where their expense claims are up to in real time. So what does that mean for you if you're a sales director or someone in HR or even in finance? What does that mean to you? Well, it means that you'll be bothered less from people attempting to catch up with you and get their expenses. But what I've got here is I've got my receipt, and I want to get it into the system. So I'm just going to go down to the bottom right-hand corner here, and you'll see that there is the camera. I'm just going to go into the camera. That will allow me to access my camera and take a photograph of this receipt from this morning. I always enjoy having being able to do demonstrations, because it means that I get to expense my breakfast that morning. So as you'll see this morning, I've had my cappuccino and I've had my ham and cheese toastie. And what it's doing via OCR, which is optical character recognition, is it's reading that receipt. So the first thing it will say is, right, is this receipt amount correct? And yes, this is for 10.55, so I'm just going to go and select that. Now, were I in a situation where I've been on a big business trip, for instance, and I had multiple receipts that I wanted to get into the system, there is the option here, bottom left, to click next receipt. But seeing as I've only had my breakfast this morning, I'm just going to go ahead and say that I'm done with this. So what's that's doing? Well, you can see that is processing. So that is the OCR is processing the receipt, and it's collecting the receipt data ready for that to be put into a claim. So what I'm going to do is, just whilst that's processing, by the way, the average process time is between 30 seconds and a minute, and when it's ready to go, it will come into your expense claim. So just whilst we're waiting for that to happen, I'm going to go into my demo expense claim here, and I'll show you what's going on in here. And actually, as it happens, you'll see here that this receipt from this morning has already made its way into my expense claim. So just before I talk you through the process, the first thing to note is that this receipt is now in my system. So we have got it signed off by HMRC and also by the British government that we comply with all the digital receipt legislation. So your users can actually take these receipts and throw them away. What the physical receipts, throw those away now that it's in the system. Well, what does that mean for you? Well, that means that you're not sort of having people chasing around receipts, keeping, I mean, I know where I used to work, I used to have to keep a wallet basically full of receipts for the month to send off to finance. Now it's all in the system, it's very easy to use. So what information has been captured from this receipt? Well, it captures 5 key data points. It captures the time and the date. It captures the receipt amount. It captures the supplier and it captures the currency. And with that information, it begins to automatically build out your claim for you. So you'll see that various things are in here. So firstly, you'll see that the amount is in there, yes, 1055, and the supplier description being Costa, and you can see that it was a cash payment in GBP. What also has interestingly happened here is that it's also given an expense type. So you see here that it's gone to breakfast. Now, how does the system do that? Well, this is where the artificial intelligence element of Concur comes in. So if you're aware of SAP as an organization, it has been our mission statement to become the world-leading large provider of AI services in the world. And that filters down into small products like Concur. So how does it know that it's a breakfast type? Well, if you think about what I've just told you is being captured, if I go back into the receipt here, we'll see that this happened at Costa Coffee at 7:58 in the morning. And so what it does is it feeds into the machine learning and it goes, well, hold on, if he's at Costa at 8 o'clock in the morning, I would imagine it will be some breakfast that he's expensing. Now, where do we get these expense types from? These expense types do actually come through from your ERP system. So we will match whatever you would like your expense types to be. If for any reason it hasn't been breakfast, say actually it's lunch, I had a very early lunch, I can override that within the system. Because this is a live AI tool, by the way, I'm going to cancel out of that because I don't want it to get the impression that I'm having every time I go to Costa, I'm doing it for lunch. But there is the option within the system to override that. Also, if I scroll down, there is the option to add items to projects. So via various integration various integration options, we can pull through your live project lists. So, you know, here I've got it called project A, B, C, but for you, it would be your actual project names. So I'm just going to allocate this to project A. And if potentially there may be organizations that do disbursements or companies that are looking to bill things back, there is the option here to bill this back to whichever clients I went to go and see. So that really is the base functionality of Concur. What we do is I'm just going to save that. What we do is we take receipts and we put them into, we automatically put them into the system, which means that your end users don't have to spend any time doing typing or filling out spreadsheets. It's all done within Concur. And on that message of ease of use, something else that we're able to do within Concur is actually put your expense policies into the system. So a lot of the clients that we have come to us say to us, well, we actually have very little control over what happens. Say we have £15 limit for lunch and somebody spends £17. We have very little control in that, and by the time that it gets to us in finance, it's just easier for us to, you know, to pay those overage amounts as opposed to going back through the system. Or alternatively, you know, there may be other areas within your expense policy that you'd like to tighten up on, and that's something that Concur can do for you. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing is it's important to remember that we make this as easy to use, for the client, not for the client, for the end users as possible. So if I come into my alerts, you can see here I've got 4 alerts, and we operate, by the way, a traffic light system. So there are some alerts which you can see up the top here have a red warning sign on them, and those are full stops. You won't actually be able to submit this claim without fixing those issues. And secondarily, there are amber warnings. A big one for that might be around like hotel stays. I remember in a previous job that I had, the company had a limit of £120 for hotel stays. But I don't know if you've tried to stay in the centre of London for £120 a night. I wouldn't necessarily recommend too many of those hotels. So what we had within the organisation was an amber warning around anywhere up to 200, from 120 to £200 per night for expensing a hotel room. You would get an amber warning, which would require a comment to put into the system. Again, it's important to stress, by the way, if anyone's sat there looking at this going, oh, well, I don't really want to have full stops put on my staff. I just want to get them their money back. Everything that I'm showing you within Concur today is optional. If you don't want these in here, you don't have to have them. However, we do recommend it as best practice. So,
George, can I just interrupt you for a second?
Please do.
We have actually had a question drop in there with regards to receipts and the validity of them. Questions just came through from David Hood from the Edinburgh Institute. Noticed on LinkedIn this week there was a conversation around AI-generated receipts that looks authentic. How can this help avoid fraud or false claims? Is there anything that the system does, or is that still a manual process?
Yeah, fantastic. So, interestingly enough, you talk about it coming in on LinkedIn. Yes, it's there is a lot of people on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, look at this really realistic receipt I created." Interestingly enough, if you'll go to my LinkedIn, which is simply linkedin.com/George-Gregory, you'll see that I posted a link to a piece that SAP put out last week. So one of the things that we're doing and is on the roadmap is using our AI tools to accurately show which ones are real receipts and which ones are AI generated. So there's a little bit of an arms race going on, I would say, at the moment, as they get more and more realistic. The good news is that within Concur and on the roadmap within Concur, we are embedding systems to pull out AI generated receipts and warn you that those are there.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Another comment from David is he says he loves the purpose function, saving people time on the road, a lot of heartache later. So there you go. Some good feedback there.
Well, thank you.
I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you, David, as well, for jumping in. Okay, so how are we going to clear these alerts off? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to this parking receipt, which you'll see actually has the red stop warning on it. So I'll go in there. And the first thing you'll see up the top is that, again, we've made it very easy with here for people to understand what's required. It says up at the top, it says missing field parking type. Just before I go in and fix that, I'll just show you this here. What you'll see here is that this is actually a digital receipt. So one of the questions that we get asked quite a lot is, okay, so physical receipts, fine, but what do we do for digital receipts? Concur also picks up digital receipts. So more often than not, what will happen here is that your digital receipts will, especially for your business expenses, you'll get an email sent to your work email address. As long as that work email address is the same as your login details for Concur, which for the vast majority of our clients it is, you simply take that email and forward it on to receipts@concur.com. And what will happen there is that the system will extract that receipt data, run it through the OCR as previous, and then it will just work in exactly the same way, extracting the receipt data as though it were a physical receipt, and then that digital receipt will be associated with the expense. So coming back in here into the categorization screen itself, you'll see here it says missing field required parking type. So you'll remember before that I suggested to you that one of the reasons that the ICAEW use us is because of the way that we treat VAT. So within Concur, there is actually the option for a two-level VAT status. So some of the finance people on the call may be aware that there is a difference between the VAT treatment for on-street parking and off-street parking. But it's my bet that most of the sales reps or engineers that are going to be out on the street using this software won't have that information. So what we're able to do here is you'll see that because the expense type is parking, we'll then ask a further question here, which is parking type, which becomes the required field. So look, I'm I'm in sales. I may not know the difference between on-street parking and off-street parking in terms of its VAT, but you'd hope that I'd remembered whether I parked on-street or off-street. So I'm going to say here that I parked in a multi-story car park and go ahead and save that. What that means is that VAT is now reclaimable on this, and you'll notice that I, as an end user, haven't had to enter the VAT amount. Concur works those amounts out in the background based on the options that I select within Concur. What you'll also notice here, before I move on, is that the payment type for this is actually linked to a corporate card. So one of the other benefits within Concur is that you're able to link your corporate cards, should you have them, with Concur. We don't mandate which cards you use. There are a lot of providers on the market that come to you with a card that they want you to use. We will work with any of the major global banks and also a number of the digital banks to actually bring your card transactions directly in Concur and automatically match them off. So what that means for you, mostly in finance, is that firstly, you don't have to do a manual reconciliation at the end of every month, which I know is the bugbear of most finance teams' life. But also, it means that you don't have to submit two expense claims, one for card receipt and one for out of pocket. You simply do it all within the one claim for Concur, and in the background, the system works all that information out for you, saving massive amounts of time for you and your users. Okay, so you'll see here that one of those warnings was taken off. Another area here is you'll see here that I've got a taxi receipt, which has got a warning on it. So why has that got a warning on it? Well, you'll see that it's exceeded the company policy. As I say, we'll work with you to set up your company policy. Now this is on an amber warning. So what it will require from me is the fact that I should probably leave a comment. So what I'll do here, I mean, it might be a bit topical today, but let's just say tube strike. So I'm going to leave that comment, and what that will do is that will show up when I go to approve this. This will show up to my manager as to why I've done that, and then they can make a decision there as to whether they would like to approve this or send it back. So I'm just going to say save on that one. Come back into my claim. There are some other areas here. So what you see here is as well entertainment. So client entertainment and everything that's involved with that is one of the biggest areas that Concur can really help you out, especially with corporate governance and things like anti-bribery laws. So one of the things you'll see here, it says is that the amount per attendee has exceeded the maximum account number. And so therefore, what I need to do is I need to add a couple of attendees to this. So within Concur, we've got a few ways of doing that. So I'm just going to go into the View Attendees tab. And you'll see that at the minute it's got me and it's got my colleague Gabriel. So what I need to do is I need to go ahead and add a business. Add a business attendee. So top right hand corner, I click on that, and I've got a few ways of doing this. So firstly, I can add. It's got people that I recently went out to. I can also add someone from my contacts. So let's just say Callum, you came to. I'm just going to add you to this. The option to create an attendee to bring through. And that's added you. So, and what you'll see here is that then divides down as the easiest way of doing it, divides down those numbers for ease of use. Obviously, if you want to put more expense to one individual, you can go in and manually override that. There is a final nice option which I use more often when I'm doing this, which is actually selecting people from my calendar. So from a GDPR perspective, I'm not actually going to go ahead and show you everybody else that I have meetings with today, but there is the option to add directly from your calendar as well. So I'm just going to cancel out of that. Now, where I go back into the system, you'll now see that because basically within Concur, we get £30 per head in relation to our bribery laws. Because we've now spent fewer than £30 per head, that warning has disappeared. Also, again, just to say, obviously you can add further comment in here, or you can bill these back to people within the system. It's the same for all different expense types. Obviously, again, if there are any questions around the reporting on this, I'm very happy to answer those. But I'm aware as well that we are We're running through time, and I just want to make sure I'm able to show you everything within the system. Something else that's quite interesting as well within here, which I really appreciate, is itemization of hotel bills. So one of the biggest bugbears that we have, that finance teams have, is if I go into this receipt, what you'll see here is that this is a receipt here for £346, but actually there's a whole load of line items in here. So, you know, accommodation, food, bar and wine, tips, etc., etc. So, you know, your users, what they will probably do is they will take that whole £346.60 and say that was a hotel cost. But the finance workers amongst us know that it isn't. It isn't all to accommodation. It's for various different line items. So how does Concur help? Well, Concur, when you put a receipt into the system, the overall expense type shows as being hotel, absolutely, but it will do automatic itemization for you. So you'll see here that it will come down to the hotel costs only being the 266. All the other costs are allocated to the correct expense type within your system automatically, saving you huge amounts of time, but also massively increasing your accuracy. One of the benefits with Concur is your ability to see, especially where hotels and things are concerned, see accurately how much you're spending with all of your largest suppliers in this area, and potentially do something like renegotiate your rates that you have with preferred suppliers, or drill down on any of the users that may be slightly outside of policy. And what we see actually for users of Concur is your overall expenditure or the amounts that you get charged by hotels by going back to them and negotiating better rates actually means that you're able to reduce your entire food and beverage and accommodation spend per year by 1%, which may not sound like a lot, but if you've got 200 people out on the road, or even 20 or 30 out on the road who are all staying in hotels, reducing that expense even by 1 or 2% can make a massive difference to your bottom line within the organization. The final area that I'm going to talk to you about is what we do with mileage. So there are two options within Concur for the way that we look at mileage, and the first one is simply there's the option to add mileage manually within the system. So I'm going to go here and create a new expense, and what I'm going to say is it was personal car mileage, and that then launches our mileage calculation tool. So firstly, I'm going to just go ahead and let's just say I had a business meeting. I'm based in Reading, and let's just say I had a meeting up in Manchester that I needed to drive to. Obviously, you can put the you can go ahead and put the exact postcodes in, but for ease of use on today, I'm just going to show this. So you'll see here that this is a Google Maps integration, and that integrates directly into Concur. So again, I go back and have a look at have a think about how I used to put my expenses in. Probably on the 28th of every month, I was sat there for 3 hours with 3 screens open. I'd have my diary open on one screen, I'd have my expense report open on another screen, and on my third screen I'd have Google Maps open, simply typing in every single time into Google Maps. I went from here to here, and then showing what that mileage was, and then I'd manually type into Excel. I went from here to here, and you know, massive duplication of work, and then I'd have to match it to any receipts that I had here. Within Concur, you're able to reduce that hugely by simply just typing into the system here. It brings up the Google Maps route and inputs the data. Why is this of benefit to finance and to you as an organization? Well, the other thing is that we know that the most overstated area of expenditure is mileage. So for instance, here you can see I've got this journey here, which was 194.4 miles. Well, look, with the best will in the world, when somebody's putting in an expense claim, excuse me, that 194.4 quite easily becomes 200. Which may not seem like a massive difference, but at 40p a mile, if everybody's claiming £2 per trip more, that can build up over the year. Also, let's just say I had a round trip, I can add on. So let's just say I went on to Liverpool. it simply just adds those in. So I've got those as my option. There is the option within here if I go back as well. So I'm just going to use that route. What you'll see as well is it's gone ahead and it's put in the amount that I'm claiming. So it's done that working out for me. Also, it allows me to add in my distance to date. So most organizations have up to 10,000 miles at a certain rate and over 10,000 miles at a certain rate. We can build that in here, and as soon as your individual goes over 10,000 miles, it will swap to the other rate. And also I can add in passengers. So let's just say I actually had 2 people with me, and I save that. That will then mean that I'm able to claim, see here straight away, I'm able to claim more because I get the passenger rate. So that's one way of doing it. For those that are looking, I'm just going to cancel out of here. So for those that are looking for a more automated way of putting in your mileage, we have an option within Concur, which is our optional module called Drive. So just going to go ahead and enable Drive. I'll have to do it via my location settings. Shows that this is a real live demonstration because I've actually had to go and go through it. So how does Drive work? Well, it works in a couple of different ways. So the first thing is this is a GPS tracking of your phone, which is why you have to turn on the location settings. And what that means is it links to the Bluetooth links to your car. So basically, if you've got your car and you've connected your work phone to it, what will happen is as soon as you turn on the ignition and the Bluetooth connects via the system, it can start tracking. There's also the option here for user initiated. So let's just say the user initiated means that I just simply turn it on and off whilst I'm using the system, and it will mean that through the day I just say I'm traveling from here to here, go, and off it looks after you. But my preferred option here is the scheduled option. So let's just say, one of the questions that we get is, well, I use my car in the evening and I don't want it to be claiming expenses. Absolutely. So what you can do here is you can actually schedule when it will capture that information. So currently I've got it capturing the information for Monday to Friday between 8 and 5. If I'm driving between 8 and 5, let's just say I'm doing it for business. And what that will do is all of my mileage will be captured here and put into the system. Anything outside of that, if it's later than 5 in the evening, I can of course still add that expense, but it's just working away in the background. So I'm just going to close out of that and go back into my demo here. And we're ready to go. So what I'm now in is a situation whereby I'm able to submit this claim for approval, and it's going to go into the system. And what I'm going to do now is take you through the reimbursement process of SAP Concur. So I'm just going to come back into the webinar, stop sharing. And I'm hoping now we're all looking at one another live. Perfect. Yeah. So just to pause on that, get my camera set back up. Turn my camera on, and we're ready to go. Perfect. So I'm not sure, Amy, I'm not sure if you're still sharing the slides. They appear to have disappeared for me.
Yeah, we're down to our actually it's just running over slightly. We've got less than 10 minutes.
Perfect, okay.
So if anybody, please drop any more questions that you do have in. There is one thing, but I'll let you carry on there just now, George.
Perfect. Okay. So running into this then. So the approval process within Concur is fairly simple. So I've submitted this for approval. Now there is actually an individual step in here, which is a service that we offer called receipts audit. So one of the biggest issues that we see is that simply approvers, they will go ahead and just approve expenses without looking at them. So so Concur can actually do that, do some of that process for you in terms of checking in on receipts. So this is an optional service that we have called Receipt Audit, and it's in 3 stages. So the first thing that they'll do is they'll do receipt receipt substantiation. They'll actually make sure that it's a real receipt, not a credit card receipt. They'll check in some of the AI functionality, Callum, that we talked about earlier on, and they'll approve it from there. The next phase of this is the VAT capture element of this. So what they'll also do is they'll make sure that the correct amount of VAT has been captured as is shown on the receipt. Now, the majority of this will be absolutely fine because you're putting in for breakfast. Breakfast is at 20%, and it will capture the right amount of information. Where this is a real benefit is, say you've got a split VAT receipt, which is the next example that we have. So again, what we're not expecting is for your end users to be tax experts, but what we can have is Concur be that tax expert for you. So what you see here is I've got an expense receipt for for my breakfast, but because I ordered a butter croissant, but they didn't put it in the microwave and warm it up for me, VAT is not chargeable on this receipt. So what you'll notice is actually I'm only able to claim a smaller amount of VAT that's available on the receipt than the amount that the system is currently trying to claim for me. So what the team will do is they'll access that and they'll actually go and override that within the system. So what does that mean for you? Well, that means that you're only dealing with 100% clean data, and it means that you're able to maximize the amount of VAT that you're able to reclaim. And the final area within the audit team as well is we're able to do policy checks. So there are loads of policies that we're able to check for. Some of the more popular ones are things like tips and gratuities, and also alcohol. A lot of companies won't reimburse for alcohol nowadays. But you can decide which ones you would like to be in the system, and then what you're also able to do is ask for one specific check for your organization. So for us, a lot of those will be around like train fares. So I've got an example here of a train ticket, which is a first class train ticket. Amy, if you're able to just click on, please. And you'll see here that just in the top left-hand corner, it just says first class. Now, with the greatest will in the world, no OCR system is going to be able to capture that. So that's where the human element comes in here. I'm just going to move on then. So what we've got here is basically, as I say, completely clean data now going through the system, all ready to go. If there are any questions around that will actually get sent back to the end user for them to add further information or perhaps upload better receipts. The point is that you guys in finance or the approvers aren't doing this. So what does the approval workflow look like? So I'm just going to come into approvals. So the majority of the approvals that are going to be done will be done via also in the app. So why do we do that? Well, it basically means that the analytics of this shows that most of the approvals are done between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning and 7:30 and 8 o'clock at night. So what that's showing is that your directors, they're not having to spend lots of time at desk doing this work. What they're doing is that they're simply opening their mobile phone. They'll get a push notification asking for them to do the approval, and they'll do so. So Amy, if you just click on. And go ahead again. So you'll see that the area is the same in the app as where they're putting their expenses through. What this means is you can do this via the desktop as well. So you'll get an email notification alerting you to the fact that there is an approval waiting for you. You simply click on that, and that takes you into the desktop version of Concur. If you click on, please, Amy. And where this allows you to do is, what's nice about that is it allows you to, do things like looking at comments and, put those through for approval as well. So you'll see in the top right-hand corner here, I've got 3 options, which is I can either send it back for some further comment, or I can approve it, or I can send it on for further approval. Sometimes people will want to do that. So let's just say you've got a trade fair going on or something like that, and the head of marketing wants to see all the expenses related to a trade fair, or maybe you've got a policy within the organisation where any expense claim over £3,000 needs to go in front of the CFO. You can do that. You can do that within Concur. So finally, we'll come to finance and what the finance view looks like. So actually, the finance view is very, very similar to the approval view. The main difference being is that majority of the time that finance teams will spend in the desktop. So what we want to do for finance is give you the option to get down to the data as quickly as possible. And the majority of the things that you'll want to look at are the ones that have got the warnings at. So you can put those all together in one place. What we can also do is help you run queries for those. But what I'm going to do here is I've got one that's got a query on it. I'm just going to go in here as finance and have a look. The main difference within finance, you'll notice, Amy, if you just click one more on, please, is that this is the first time that you'll see anything in the user interface around VAT. So if you remember, everything at the moment for the end user and for the approver has got nothing to do with VAT. And the reason we do that on purpose, we don't want them to be involved in any of these calculations. We want proper finance professionals to have the final say on this. And so at this point, if you need to, you can do your manual VAT. You can do your manual VAT checks. However, if you've used the audit option, this should all be correct and right and proper for you. So again, what can we do here within finance? We can either approve it or send it back to the approver, ask them some questions as to this, or of course you can send it all the way back to the end user. How do we get your information into Concur? How do we get your information from Concur into your ERP system? Well, we have various different options. So we have 4 different options here within Concur. Just onto the next slide, please. Cool. So 4 different options here. You can either do on demand via a CSV file upload or a bi-directional upload via an SFTP. That's a secure file transfer protocol. But we also work with partners like Persevere to offer web services, API-based connections and pre-built connectors. So with time in mind, what I might do here is just pause. If there are further questions that come out, I'm very happy to discuss them. But I really wanted to take this opportunity really to show you the end user experience of the software. Make sure, show you what it looks like from day to day. And what I would say is if this has piqued your interest, obviously I can see there are a couple of questions. If this piqued your interest further, please do get in contact with Callum. We'd be delighted to arrange time to come and talk to you more about it. And it's a really great way. Finally, I would say SAP Concur is a really great way to introduce yourself to the SAP range of products. If you're not quite ready for a big ERP project right now, but you want to see how we work and how we look after our clients, Concur comes at a very entry-level price and is a great way to get in. That's the sales pitch done, Callum. I'll pass back to you.
No, thank you. That was really, really interesting. Thank you very much, George. I do appreciate that. And great to see it live, as it were. I really enjoyed seeing these things. And the nightmare scenario of things never working, it didn't happen. So thank you. It was wonderful. Yeah, one quick question, just because I know time is against us. There is one quick question which has been hovering around here with regards to statistics. How much time and effort has or could possibly be saved by those staff who are out on the road? I think you touched on this, but I did notice there's also information on the Concur web pages where you can work out a return on investment in relation to the size of the business, etc. So I take it those kind of stats are available and visible, and we can obviously pass that on to people directly.
Absolutely. So we work with independent market research agencies as well. So the Aberdeen Group published some statistics. The average time that it takes to submit for an end user to compile and submit an expense claim, the average amount of time is between 2.5 and 3 hours per month. With manual process within Concur, that comes down to half an hour per month, and then the approval cycle is somewhere around 72 hours with a manual process, and that comes down to 24 hours within Concur. On the ROI calculator, yes, there is an ROI calculator on the site. If you're really planning on this and you would like a more detailed one, we'd be delighted to run through that with you as well.
Great. Well, that's concluding for just now. We're really running out of time. I'll reach out to the people who are in the chat menu who we couldn't get around to, because we did promise we'd keep this tight for time. Thank you very much for your contribution today, George. I thoroughly enjoyed that. In the background, Amy also for working the slide deck. We'll leave you now and reach out directly for your feedback and your comment on today's webinar, and hopefully join us again for another topic when the time is right. Thank you very much.
Thanks all.